that. But before we proceed, I mean, just introduce yourself a little bit for the audience.
My name is Ayobami Adekojo. I'm a policy advisor and political strategist. Um, I don't know what, what else to say, but yeah, I've been doing this for a while and worked on multiple elections. I used to do like corporate branding before I moved to politics and governance. And in the governance space, I've worked with several presidential candidates, both in Nigeria and well within Africa. Uh, that's all.
Okay. So, like, you're not, I'm sure 90% of everybody watching this is familiar with you in one form or the other, especially on Twitter. Um, so, my first question would be that in terms of consequences, in terms of the effect on the country itself, between 2023 elections that we just had and 2015, which was the most consequential in your opinion?
I think 2015 is the most consequential election in Nigerian history. Aside 99, that was like a crowning. 2015 was really consequential because we're going in a certain direction. Obviously, there might be some bias here, but we're going in a certain direction and we knew what we were doing. The president had like a very good team. He was a young president. He was the first non-military president in this republic. So we're moving away from that. Before we obviously brought Buhari back, and we had like people like Okonjo Iweala, additional Sanusi. When you look at where these people are now, you can see that. And when you compare the replacements that came later, for a simple example is one wanted to remove subsidy in 2012. There were like debates. Okonjo Iweala, Sanusi, everybody, they went to Lagos Business School, they had town halls, tried to explain what was going on, what subsidy is. It's totally different from what Buhari did, and Tinubu coming to say subsidy is gone. So it was more democratic, and I feel like since 2015 is the reason we had 2023, it's the reason we had 2019 as well. So 2015 is the more consequential election for me.
Mhm. So that's an interesting point because my producer and I, we had a huge debate in 2020, 2015 actually, and it's still an ongoing debate. I've ceded ground a little bit because hindsight is 2020, like they say. Um, I didn't see a case for Jonathan to continue. That's me personally. Um, though Buhari also was an absolute no for me because I was not surprised how the Buhari presidency turned out because he had no track record, he had no ideas, um, he had no competence really. So it was disastrous for the country, but I was not surprised. But I just feel like for a lot of people, there's a bit of revisionist history in terms of, okay, Jonathan was the better candidate because I felt if he was, at some point, it felt like he was the most unpopular president in Nigeria. So I had someone on the show way back that put all that down to public relations and all that. So what do you think? Was Jonathan's unpopularity and eventual loss down to opposition strategy or perhaps some misgovernance on his own part?
So I'm going to break it down in different ways. It's not just opposition strategy. That's one. But one thing that people, and I'm sorry to take us totally left field with this. One thing people tend to forget is that we've had this whole north-south rotation. Jonathan was the first president from, like, again in this republic, he was the first president from like a minority side. And when you look at what's happening today with Tinubu, for example, At worst, he knows like, oh, he has a base of like there are 30 million Yoruba speakers. Even if it's half of them that like me, they are always defending him. Buhari was sure that he had that base as well.
Yeah.
And this is not just for people that want to be tribal. If Obi had won, he was always going to have that base as well. Like, people in charge of media, in charge of an entire zone. Jonathan did not have that. He's like an Ijaw person, and he was unable to build that coalition. So that's on his own part as well, because the people he had around him were not able to build like a national coalition to come together and say, oh, this is for everybody. Well, another problem he has is the country, the way we run governance in this country, people prefer government handouts. There's like a static thinking or education from university professors down to like government governance. And then Jonathan adds people like Okoje that was trying to drift us to a more market-based economy. I don't think a lot of people took it well, and I think the opposition had the perfect chance to strike. Occupy Nigeria, people have to remember that it was like there was a global movement to occupy then, and everybody just thought let's do a Nigerian one. And the subsidy removal came at the perfect time. And from 2012, we won the election in 2011. From 2012 down, it was not. It was really rocky for him. But you have to look at the numbers. You had 7 to 9% inflation rate. You had under 10% interest rates. You had GDP growth in 5 to 7%, and you compare it to what you have today, and that's the only thing we can do. We can only compare. That's why we are economists, or we are debating this, because we want to compare numbers. Like, okay, what was it then? What were they doing then? What is it now? What are they doing now? So I think it's a combination of factors. The opposition that he had from 2011 when Yar'Adua died, and a lot of Northerners felt like, you know what, you shouldn't be doing this. This is our turn.
But like, because like I feel one of my biggest problem with politics, I think we'll get to that, is it's just such a very selfish profession, in the sense that sometimes you get blinded by your ambition, your not like that's morally wrong, but you fail to consider like other parts of the system. So I felt like if we had this north-south rotational thing, it's not constitutional. It's not.
I disagree with it personally. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever supported somebody for like not like the last time I was supporting another to replace another.
Yeah, but we know that that's kind of like Nigeria's political settlement.
Yeah, that's
so like I felt like Jonathan choosing to run in 2015 sort of broke that. I won't say gentleman's agreement, and we saw the result. It reverberated through the system.
Yeah.
People, again, for their own personal gain and ambition, were able to weaponize that into a narrative that, it's Nigerian, but it works, it sticks, And the second point, so I'd like to respond to that. The second point is that, okay, yeah, you talked about policies, team. See, some of these numbers look good now.
Look good.
You can. I can also fantasize about 5 to 9%, 7 to 9% inflation rate in a 40% inflation environment.
Yeah.
Right. And like you said, to be honest, it took a while to get there. It took a lot of work for us to get to single digits inflation.
Exactly. It's not manna from heaven.
Exactly. It's not. From Soludo to Sanusi, and a whole bunch of other levers that was pulled fiscally. So I'm not cheating on that. But it's just that there were signs that things were going south with Jonathan as well. Poverty has started rising in Nigeria, at least on aggregate. consumption cycle of the oil boom was tapering, and it didn't look like the team had a good plan to like transition us to an investment-based economy at least. I know key people in the administration um, have the right ideas. You talked about Ngozi, but I know the fight with the governors, even for Nigeria to have a sovereign wealth fund, it was a huge fight as she detailed in her book, and a whole bunch of other reforms she was trying to push to that was.
She has APC government, so because when you do it like that now, you have to contextualize it in that way. That she had with APC government.
Yeah. So and finally, for me, two of Jonathan's appointees that people would, I mean, label technocrats, were architects of very disruptive policies. The agri minister had a very protectionist. The national agri policy at the time was nothing to write home about. It wasn't a great departure from what the Buhari did, as a matter of fact. And of course, we had Mr. Aganga with the national auto policy that took 7 years or thereabout to repeal. But I mean, we still haven't even gotten out of the woods with that. So I would not be so confident to say that had Jonathan won that election, things may not be as bad. But
if things will not be as bad,
they wouldn't be so rosy either.
I don't want to litigate like Jonathan's administration, so that we don't dwell too much on that.
Yeah.
But there's nobody that thinks like Nigeria would be this bad today if that administration had continued. There's nobody or policy that you can count or point to from Buhari's time till now. There's no appointee that can go ahead to head WTO. There's no appointee that can go ahead to head the AFDB since then. There's no policy that they had, even if it was bad. They just came in and started printing money.
Mm-hmm.
You were saying the agricultural policy is not different. Jonathan Nigeria did not print 2 trillion for our corporate program.
No.
They followed like the way that went. That's the real money that was printed into the economy.
Yeah.
That's had no productivity. And so people complain about inflation today. They don't know the level of printing. Before Buhari came in, I think CBN advanced to government was like 80 billion or something. Then you went to 28 trillion within 8 years. So I'm talking about 680 billion is like since forever. Since the 60s, now you went to 28 trillion under Buhari. So there's no way that they would have continued. There's no way you had NOI as finance minister with the contacts she had abroad and you just go into rudderless printing like that and everybody's suffering for it. So I don't think it's fair to. I'm not saying Nigeria was like a bed of roses or El Dorado, but you had social mobility. People were moving to the middle class. That's why when Buhari won, one of his aides, first thing he said is, "Oh, you guys miss your seedless grapes." Now, nobody's having that. So people were moving to the middle class. People were like traveling abroad, getting education, coming back home. I came back home, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So,
Same here.
so there's nobody is going to study now to come back home.
Mm.
So there's no way you want to say that when we look at things like that or the way things are, there's no social mobility going on now. A fresh graduate getting a new job cannot afford a car, and they can't afford to fuel anything. They can't buy AC that is like $500,000 naira. You're in the tropics, you need air conditioning for your head to work.
Mm.
So a lot of things are really bad, and there's no way that Jonathan's administration would have led to this, or any PDP administration. On Jonathan running, the selfishness of running, at that time, I was told by people that left the PDP that Jonathan had an agreement with them not to run in 2015.
Yeah.
I disagreed. I didn't follow them, especially when the choice to the other side was Buhari. Maybe if Atiku had won their primary, it was impossible to me. I would have, considered or something. And immediately they chose Buhari on the other side. I knew that, okay, we are going back to 1984. We eventually went back, like immediately for everyone that left the country, I ran away, like, you know what, this thing is not going to work. 3 years later, I love Nigeria too much, I came back. So, but even I did not expect it to be this bad. I was telling all my friends that, oh, it's going to be so terrible. My friends were carried away with like populism. My old worry is going to fight corruption, is going to do this. Government turned out to be more corrupt than Jonathan's government.
Absolutely.
And the problem with activists stealing money is they just steal it for themselves. When politicians steal money, I'm not advocating for corruption or anything. I'm just saying they have better redistribution network. Like for example, let me give you an example. When I was younger, governor of my state, Alawakala, people were always like, Owokan were everywhere. Sorry for the distance. Like, oh, there's money everywhere. And there was just largesse. Like, it was not doing a lot of projects, but people, like, you could see social mobility in people. Somebody that you knew was on a bike last week is now like driving a new car, he has a business, he's hiring people. And those people too, they are like sorting their family. So there was distribution. But when activists come in, they just pack everything and pack it away because you must not know they are stealing. So while not advocating for it, while it's the lesser of the two evils, it's just like the difference in what they are doing or how the outlook of things are.
So I mean, I'm with you on. I mean, Jonathan, it's all history now. No need to really litigate that. But you touched on something which, like, leads me to my next question, which is and I also brought this up with my previous guest for the first episode of this. The role of ideology in Nigerian politics and at the political party generally. Again, I'll go back to my discussions with my producer about this because it seems you guys are in agreement on a lot of things. People think that PDP is more of a pro-market party.
Always been.
And
when you look at Obasanjo's just liberalization
so, like, how is that? How do you think that there is serious ideology in Nigerian partisan politics?
I think the last election made it more obvious that, like, Tinubu and Co went straight, we are socialists. Atiku went pro-market. Peter Obi,
though.
Yeah, like I was involved in like the manifesto writing. That was what we presented to people. Okay. People were mocking Atiku. You want to sell NPC? You want to do this? Now people are saying sell NPC. So like they are saying it themselves. Like, oh, why is this guy still there? What's going on? Oh, you already sold NPC. Why is government still in control?
But here's the point. And this is where the tension comes in for me about, like these classifications in Nigerian politics. How would you call the person that supposedly built Lagos and created this incredible amount of wealth in Lagos? How would you call him politics? I mean, socialist. I mean, the man is famous for his generosity and
that's socialist welfareism now. How is he running the country now? You are hungry, get rice. No, so don't look at what people say. Look at what they do. How is the country being run now? If you are hungry, get rice. If you have a problem, your stomach's feeding you rice. So they are distributing a lot of things, and so there is like a large body of work on conditional cash transfers, and so there is economists have come together to say it works. So I don't have a problem with things like that, even though they had a problem with it. They already fired the minister that was supposed to be in charge of it because of corruption, and that's the type of corruption in the Nigerian scale that makes me, have reservations on it. So I don't have a problem with them saying, oh, we are going to expand conditional cash transfers, which is what they are trying to do now. And I know that people need cash transfers.
But they've been trying to do that for 9 months.
Exactly. So that's the problem.
They even have jettisoned the National Social Register.
So now they are going to spend billions again to get another social register. So when you look at it, at the end of the day, for every dollar people receive, maybe 90 cents will be spent on targeting them. So exactly. So that's wasteful spending. So what large infrastructure are you doing? The only one has become like such a huge controversy, which I hope they get out of, because if it works, it's a good thing. I don't think because he supposedly built Lagos into this. So from time, I'm not taking anything he did away, but from time human beings have moved to the coast to advance trade. Coastal cities will always be like pro trade, pro markets. So the government can only try to stop it, not even advance it, because the natural urge for human beings is to advance it. When you look at, for example, I'm from Ibadan, when people settled, they settled around marketplaces in Oja, Oba, and Co. And it was portrayed, it was like a bellicose society, like anybody do whatever you want. We don't have a king here. If you become too rich, you become king, that's fine. So that's like the type of Republican nature people have when they are around trade, when they are coming together for trade. So I don't think he built or he had that in mind to build like a pro-market, a pro-trade state. It is what was added to him that he helped with and aided. So, and you can see from his policies that he talks about it, like he literally wrote a book with some foreign author, and a lot of it was like socialist leaning policies that they were pushing. I don't particularly have a problem with it, but we need to get through a phase where we respect the markets, we respect innovation, we reward innovation, we make sure that innovators get what they deserve, instead of the state just taking and taking and taking for them to redistribute, because that's where the lack of effective distribution comes from.
Mm, mm. I mean, I agree with you. I'm playing devil's advocate. Nothing about Lagos is working. I'm from here. I was born
I was
here.
going to go into that, but I didn't want
I
to.
was, I was raised
Not
here.
sewage, not public transport,
Yeah,
not housing. So okay, they are supposed to be, but where is the public housing?
so
The only one is like maybe 1004 that was for federal civil servants. So they did the looping and it's just there.
So
That's the
and
public housing that
the important point you made is that Lagos has a natural advantage being a coastal city. My own argument, which of course some people have violently even disagreed with me in the past, is that Lagos economy could have been 50 times bigger than it is
So yeah,
under better governance,
of course,
right?
definitely.
So there's no big deal to Lagos, trust me. So I'm just, so now let's go back to 2023. Um, it felt like it was going to be a moment, like there was a lot of awareness, especially after EndSARS. Get your PVC, this, that. How did that hope, as someone who participated on the front lines in one form, how did that hope get snuffed out such that, as disastrous as Buhari was, his party is still in charge?
I think the EndSARS generation, I protested as well. So EndSARS generation, I think people decided to back the wrong horse. This may be controversial, but I don't think there was like a lot of realism into the decision that was made. Because now you just said in 2019 we had Buhari on the defensive. We fired the Chief Justice with
3 weeks before the election.
Yeah. He was on the defensive. He was going to lose that election. It was very bad. We had him on the defensive. It was Atiku will beat tickets. People were excited to vote. Like, so I think people have forgotten how bad Buhari's first 4 years were.
Yeah.
Because immediately he won second, and that's why I'm afraid. People win the second, then people just like, okay. Because immediately he won second, then people were just, So people have totally forgotten how bad it was the first time. Like people were like, okay, let's get this guy out now. So people that were shouting change within a year were like, we want to get this man out now. And we pushed Buhari to the limits in 2019 All we needed to do was to do the same thing. Now, against non-Buhari, you are not going to have a million votes from Kano, a million dot five votes from Kaduna and all. So we have somebody, Lagos city boy, not so popular within Lagos, not so popular in the southwest, not a northerner, went with an unpopular Muslim ticket. So we had him there to write again. But we got distracted. Everyone felt PDP should have given their ticket to this person. PDP had their primaries. Was
being
open.
Peter Obi now.
Yeah, being Peter Obi. Yeah. Being Peter Obi, yeah. PDP had their primaries, was open for everybody to contest. Every member of the party. Peter Obi decided not to contest the primaries. He left elsewhere. And he made the same argument that people make the North-South transition that, oh, it's time for a Northern Abbey, it's time for a Southerner. And I'm happy that, the power of coming together showed in him getting some 6 million votes, but I feel like they were just pissed away. If I was in Tinubu's strategy room in 2017, I was going to tell him that, sir, you can't win this election. But there's one way you can. Make sure the Southeast, or any other person that wants to vote against a Muslim ticket, vote for another party aside PDP. At the very end of the day, no matter what votes that party gets, the PDP is still your opposition. The PDP will come second. The PDP is the only party that can have 25% votes in 2/3 of the states. They are the only ones with that machine to do it. But if you introduce a third candidate, so you can take my word for it now, in 2027 there will be like 20 candidates. Because that's the only way you can win again. Splintered opposition. And people will be like, now the same people that said, oh, they were not splitting votes for Tinubu in 2023 will be telling other people, don't run, Papaso don't run, Erufai don't run, Saraki don't run, you don't run. Just make sure we concentrate it here. But we told you to concentrate it somewhere else in 2023. So the problem in 2023 was the vote splitting. Tinubu was not popular. I won 36% of the votes. Lowest vote share in the history of the country to be president. I really think that that's something that should be amended. I mean, it's never going to happen under Akpabio, but it's something I wish would be amended, that if you don't get 50% vote ballots, let's go to a second round. So I think we channeled that energy in the wrong way. We're not realistic. The PDP also did not reach out as well as they should have. The PDP underrated the youth voice, and immediately after the primaries, the type of politics that was supposed to happen to bring people back into the fold did not really happen. There was a lot of arrogance to it. There was a lot of entitlement to it. So it's bad, but we also showed the power of coming together on that campaign, on Peter Obi's campaign. They showed the power of coming together. The problem we are going to have moving forward is they have gotten themselves into a corner where they feel elections in Nigeria are rigged. There's no point. That's what the APC wants you to believe. If you come out and vote, you win. They came out and voted in Lagos, they won. Went out and voted in Abuja, they won those two states. Atiku won in Osun. So you can't see results like that. But because you didn't win the ultimate prize, you feel like, oh, this thing, there's no point to it. There's a point to it. If you come out and vote and be together again, you knock them out. You knock them off the path.
Okay. So I hear you, right? And like you said, a lot of people will think you are biased.
It's fine for them to, yeah.
So let's say that I am an obedient right now, sitting and we are having this argument, this debate. I can also say the exact opposite, like the opposite of your argument is also valid in many senses.
What's the opposite?
So, why couldn't, for example, Atiku step down for Obi?
Yeah, but Obi did not. Like Tambuwa stepped down for Atiku, and Obi did not contest. You can't step down.
So here's my point. Like again, it goes back to so there is a kind of paradox to the pragmatism in Nigerian politics. Mm-hmm. Nigerian politicians seems pragmatic in one sense, but in some other way, you see some very resolute, egotistic thing going on. That doesn't really make sense. Okay, look at Biden Trump thing. Um, there are lots of voices when Biden announced that he wasn't going to run, that it should be an open convention and that they should slug it out. You have names like Shapiro and so many other Newsom being tossed into the like. Let's throw this thing out. And I mean, there are no guarantees that Harris would have won if they had an open convention. Like, but at some point, whatever forces were at work in the background, there was a rallying point, which is okay. We don't want to be slugging it out at this stage. The election is just like 3 months away. Like, let's rally behind a single candidate, and the consensus emerge. So my point is, if, especially given the momentum you described from 2019, like we almost beat these people. Okay, we know that by 2023, the North-South thing was going to be an issue because by then Buhari would have done 8 years. And an article ticket was always going to be problematic. So my point is not after he won the primaries, it was before. Like, why, dude, why did you run? You know that you've been in this game for a long time. You know that this was going, if you had won, this was going to be an albatross. So is it so unimaginable for Atiku to back a southern candidate inside PDP and say, you know what, we want to win. It's not just about me, right? We want to win. We know that APC is bad, whatever. We want to win. And we must do everything to kick their ass. Was that so unimaginable?
So let me start with your example, the American one, so that listeners can understand. I think people keep making a mistake when they look at political parties. People make a mistake between incumbent parties and the ones in opposition. If Trump had a bad debate night to the extent that he had to step out, the Republicans will have the Congress because they are not the incumbent party. That's why immediately Biden stepped out. He endorsed Kamala to avoid anything. That's the incumbent party. So when you tell parties like PDP to do this or do that, there's no central power controlling things. It's a movement. That's why you can have Wike go on TV to say this or that. There's no central power controlling things. So PDP cannot even zone its presidential tickets to one zone. Like, why can't I contest? I'm in this political party. I've been in this political party for years. Why do you want to deny me? If there was a president that had called me into the room and say, sit down, that's fine. But without the existence of like a central power like that, like a Buhari that was in control of the APC or a Tinubu that was in control of the ACN, there's nothing like that in the PDP. So that's why it's open. Let everybody contest. Let it be the will of the people. Delegates are voting. So I think one of the major problems is the way the party primaries, the part that people don't focus on, the state congresses. Yeah. People don't care about state congresses. I wrote a Substack article on how delegates are chosen, and I could not believe the amount of hits it got online. People were reading it because people did not know that, oh, this is how delegates, they realize that, oh, delegates just collect dollars and go. But that's not how the politics works. So the PDP cannot say, it's the time for the South, let's choose the Southern candidate and totally ignore the North. The last PDP president from the South, the one before that, the Southwestern, the only PDP president from the North spent only 2 years. Should Northern PDP members that have been there since 1999 not also have access to presidency? Was Buhari a PDP president? No. And so I don't, apart from the fact that I always advocate for people to vote for the best candidates, regardless of like tribe or creed or religion or whatever. I think it's unfair to assume, because people will tell me then that even APC ceded it to the South. You could see APC governors doing this and that immediately when it looked like it was going to go out that way. PDP cannot do the same. There's no central authority, there's no central power. if you want to be in a cult of personality, that's fine. But if you want to be in an open party, contest open primaries, and I don't think that people that feel like they don't have to put themselves through that process, I don't think they can run the country. Because if you can't put yourself through the process of open primaries within a political party, trying to meet this person, talk to that person, how are you going to push your tough policy reforms? How exactly are you going to do it without burning the country down? So, on article supporting a southern candidate, that's a personal decision for him. The southern candidates that were contesting in the last election that at least bought the PDP forms, I don't think there's any one of them that I, a southerner, would have voted for. Wike, Ayobami Adekojo,
Oh, Iran?
yeah, he did. He bought the form, and I mean, so
I mean, people buy forms.
I mean, at least he ran, he contested. So I don't think there's any one of them that I personally would have voted for as a southerner. I think if Peter Obi remembered the fact that when Atiku chose him in 2018, it became a big problem in the party. Southeastern governors came out and protested against his candidacy, his nomination as VP. David Umahi, Enugu governor.
Umahi was a PDP.
Yeah, he was in PDP. That's why he left the PDP.
Oh.
So people don't know these things. So Atiku stood his ground. The same way he stood his ground with Okowa. He stood his ground there like, oh, I like this person. And, the PDP gave him a national platform, went on to do great things with it. That's fine. But if you remembered where that was, he would have stayed and protested the PDP primaries. And if Atiku had won, they would have, done it together. So when you are talking about somebody supporting the other person, there are two sides to it. He could have also said the most important thing is to get the APC out. I'm going to back Atiku to do that. That's why I did, because that was a pragmatic choice.
Fair point. So, I mean, that happened as it did, and the truth is, thinking about Nigeria, I can't do these things sober. Where Buhari is, well, the man is a bit of an enigma. For 2 years, I've been struggling to get an essay out of my system about Buhari. And I'm always torn whether it's even worth the words that I'm going to expend trying to describe how much of a catastrophe his governance was. But I mean, be that as it may, 2023 happened as it did. You guys, opposition, I'm talking to you and your obedient protagonists or antagonists. They worked together and we got the results we got. How did it go so badly so quickly?
For the opposition?
Yeah. No. I mean, in terms of policies, in terms of now we are here, we are talking about 1,000 naira per liter for fuel. Food inflation. Yeah, food inflation is 40%
officially.
Yeah, and I know people like to shout reform. I don't see anything reform going on. I'll quote a friend of mine who works in Abuja. When the FT came out with that article talking about shock therapy, when he read it, what he said was like, him and his colleagues in government laughed that, please, we are not that organized. So there's no shock therapy going on here. So, this is somebody that came with so much pizzazz, so much, I built Lagos, how did it go how did the wheels fall off so quickly?
So I'm going to start by saying actually there are bold reforms because some of them I advocated for myself.
Okay.
So I can't now come and
be a hypocrite about
exactly about it.
Give me examples.
Okay, I wanted subsidy removal. I wanted the naira also to exchange with market forces, although I wouldn't have done it at the same time. And I said it at the time that it's because of subsidy removal, it should have been at least a crawling pain. I think doing the two at the time, the type of shock to like the Nigerian economy at the time destroyed everything. So I don't think it was smart for him to do the two at the time. I think they should have phased it. I think they should have had a better plan to phase it. I think we could have still afforded some subsidy until Dangote came on board, at least. I think we could have done some other things. And I think what they did immediately, so Jonathan removed subsidy, right? There were like Shopee funds, they had you win and things like that. But this administration did not come up with plans like post-subsidy plans. So now you put people in energy poverty, productivity has reduced, businesses are struggling with energy, and immediately you move some people to band A, electricity is costly. So it was too many things happening at the same time that should have been faced. And it should have been faced in a way that the citizens will know that, okay, by December, this is the next one we are going to. By this time, this is the next one we are going to. So there's some planning. Now, there's none. And unfortunately, what they depended on, because I went back to read their manifesto, like, okay, what was their plan? And I talked about it earlier, the cash transfer that they depended on, immediately they found fraud in it. And it's easy, it was easy for, I mean, the misogyny parts of like just firing her, because I strongly feel.
Fired, though.
Is she back? She was suspended forever. It's just like a jury has.
But he said he resigned.
Yeah, she was suspended.
Okay.
Yeah, so the misogyny aside, no, that's because it's only in that place that it's easy to see corruption because they are sharing cash.
Yeah.
In every other place, corruption has not reduced, and that's another major issue. There's no fiscal discipline still. The president went ahead to buy a jet. They went ahead to build like house for the VP. They are still doing the same budget through process. So people are not saying, not just people are not saying, the economy itself is not seeing any difference in government spending. If anything, government believe like now we have more money to spend. But on what? And don't forget, one of the problems we have is resource allocation. We don't know how to effectively manage what we have. We don't have enough. It's fine. People always say Nigeria is a poor country. It's fine. We don't have enough. But even the one we have, the little we have, we don't know how to spend. We don't know what to spend it on. And it's funny because politicians believe that if we put money out, people are going to steal it anyway. So let's just take it from this source. Because the chain down, if you say, oh, we want to have more primary healthcare funding, for example, and this is a real life example, I'm not going to go into details. If you say you want to have more primary healthcare funding, for example, what you just have is the doctors that are in the bureaucracy will now make a shitload more money, and when they audit it, they'll be like, these doctors are making too much. What? Let's wrap that up. So I think one of the issues is they did these supposedly bold reforms and they felt like that's the end. Once we do this, once we remove subsidy, everything will be good. Because the IMF wrote papers, the World Bank wrote papers for years. But that's not the end. The reform itself is not the end.
So that's, sorry to interject, that's an interesting point in the sense that the reason why I really am not sold on these so-called reforms is that, I mean, I saw him on TV the week he got posted, the new IMF mission chief to Nigeria, Christian Beke. And even the guy before him, Ari, even the IMF would tell you that reforms need some things to work. They talk about coherence, right? You need to have, what is your goal? Oh, okay, you want to stop subsidy. Why? Is it for fiscal reforms or is it for energy abundance, right?
Is it because of the climate? You want people to stop to reduce their PMS use?
Or whatever, is it for the environment or whatever, right? Are you trying to reallocate the resources into a different sort of energy, maybe gas, for example, right? So The IMF would talk about coherence. IMF would talk about coordination. Like all functionaries of the government have to be talking to each other and working together. As it is, it doesn't seem like
That's exactly what. So the president felt like bold reforms is the end itself. So now we are no longer paying subsidy. Why can't I buy a jet? We are no longer paying subsidy. Why can't we do this?
so.
And
But
so,
that's my point. Now, if you believe IMF's number, now they call it shortfall or whatever. Subsidy is bigger than before.
yeah,
I mean,
mostly because of Naira devaluation though, but
yeah, but I mean, prices are. Nigerians only care about the price they are buying
of course,
things in the market.
that's what I mean. Nigeria, that's the only thing. Like I bought for this money, I'm like, I can't get used to this. There's no way I'm getting used to this.
Exactly. You go to the store to buy groceries, they print your bill, and you'll be like, did I just buy a car?"
Exactly.
Right? So, and I mean, the third point, which you also alluded to in your answer, is that sequencing. The IMF talks about sequencing.
Yeah.
What do you do first? What comes after? The whole
And it should be after the results of this. I remember when, again, I should stop going back to the other administration, but when Okojo was there, and she introduced like the idea of having the MTF for the budget, and you see like these are the things we were able to do before.
Yeah.
These are the things, and if we are not able to do this, so the funding will not come out for this.
Yeah.
So there was a plan.
Yeah.
This time there's no plan. There's nothing like, okay, if we're able to do this, this is the next phase to this. There's nothing like that.
Yeah. So and if you don't have that, are you really doing reforms? Really? Let's be honest. In the actual
I mean, I will concede, but I'm just going to say that the policy itself that stop the payments of gasoline subsidies, I agree with that. The way it has been carried out, I disagree with it. Just like the Naira policy itself, I agree with that, but the way it has been carried out, I disagree with it. So and I think we are now back to square one, where everything is like really bad and we don't know, like there's not a lot of wiggle room to move next. So the wheels came off real fast. I hope things improve. I don't see the pathway for them to, but I'm an eternal optimist, and so I really, really hope they improve. I mean, there's nothing that is happening now that we didn't want people about, but everybody said this is turn of the South, so yeah, I just have to enjoy it.
So that brings me then to the quality, which is something that I know you also talk about. You had a couple of weeks ago, you had a bit of a controversial take on Twitter, which I'm going to get to in a minute. The cabinet, do you think that, we keep hearing rumors, you can never substantiate, that the president is going to rejig?
It definitely has. There's no way it doesn't know that.
That word that has somehow penetrated his political zeitgeist in Nigeria, like rejig.
Yeah.
He's going to rejig the cabinet, but it's been over a year.
I think he has to fire a bunch of people on October 1st first.
It's been over a year, and it doesn't seem to me like
his October 1st speech would be like, you fired.
But
you
is
apprentice style.
Is he really good? I know.
I'll be very disappointed if he doesn't. It's not like anything can disappoint me anymore, but
I know the DSS may eventually come after me, but there are some weird choices.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, maybe I'm drunk, but hopefully you can tweet for me when I'm arrested. Why do you do as finance minister? It's always a weird one for me.
I think
even Cardoso, right?
Yeah.
As like, what is this thing we have with bankers as CBN governors, right? Yeah, people can talk about Spanish, but he's an economist, right? So there are a bunch of weird appointees. Even your guy, the youth minister, what's his name?
It's not my guy.
Uh, the CCO guy, what's his name?
Bosu Tijani.
Yeah.
That shared $6,000 for AI.
That was supposedly that carried the hopes and aspirations of a generation inside the cabinet. Went on national TV to say that this was the best administration in his adult life. It must really be a young guy, because that is one of the most egregiously wrong thing to say ever about anything. So even him is not, apart from all the
Minister of Women Affairs, obviously somebody with mental health issues, for example.
So, like, you have all these your national security advisor, right? Harassing NLC, Serap, all over the place. And Binance, which is like a national embarrassment. You do, like, where's your proof?
Even if there's proof, why are you treating them like that?
You understand, like an animal. So, when we keep hearing, he's going to rejig the cabinet. So, but exactly. So that then brings me to the issue of technocracy, governance, and the level of human capital in public service, right? Because I think that, yes, our politics has an incentive problem, but I also think that we have a knowledge problem that we don't acknowledge. So how do you think, in your opinion, that we can improve the level of human capital in public service? Because it just seems like even if you have people that have strong credentials on paper, you have these bizarre scenarios where they act like absolute idiots in office. So, and I think that is important. Again, if we go back to, because development, in my opinion, is like trying to make a miracle, right? Because if we go all the way back to the Industrial Revolution, Britain, Germany, the Dutch, America, after about 50 years, you can say like these people have 150 years or more to grow at 2%, right? You are trying, at least after South Korea and China, you are trying to do that or get close to that within a reasonable approximation of that in 40, 50 years, which means you have to do 7 to 10%, right?
Which way then?
So it's like you are trying to make a miracle, literally. And if you want to make a miracle, you need your brightest and the best running things. So how do we, again, rejig the system to ensure that we at least raise the level of human capital in public service?
So the thing is, the culture of the politics itself does not encourage people with the required human capital. It's so hard for you to be successful in maybe academia, business, and then chase Nigerian politics is very tough. I know a lot of people that have gotten broke from trying to do that because the level of finances involved to get in is insane. And if like the worst people get in and then try to appoint the brilliant minds are not really in control. They still have to submit to like that pervasive culture. So that's a problem that maybe election funding might solve in the future. But when people feel like they just need to get finances by any means necessary in order to have the war chest to run, he already, so there's a selection issue. He already selects people out, people that may have with brilliant ideas. So that's one thing. Generally, so I want to start from we talked about the president firing people. I think people like Wale Edun, for example, is not I don't think the problem is that he's not smart or something, but I think these guys have spent so long at home with Tinubu when so they become rusty. They didn't like improve upon themselves. They didn't
So
take
my
new
favorite
courses.
example is Cardoso's last experience in public policy was as a commissioner
Yeah,
way back in
exactly,
2003.
exactly. So they didn't improve on themselves. There are so many things that are happening in the development space, in the economic space. There are so many courses to do. There are so many different ways to analyze the things. There are so many policy papers. So they don't. When you see them talking, when I watch Wale or Kabiso talk, it just seems like they're stuck in like 2008 global financial crisis.
Yeah.
And so many things have happened since then. So many research papers, so many conclusions have been made. So you can see that they were brilliant at the time and they stopped. The same thing might be affecting the president. I don't know, but that's one thing I've noticed with them. So these are brilliant people that just like stopped learning at some point because they felt like we are brilliant enough. And obviously, the person that they work for is also either on that same plane as well. So they are all in 2008, or is still seeing them as the same brilliant mind. For example, when you look at that's why like a younger person like the FIRS chairman, you see them like pushing to the front and all because that's obviously somebody that over the years has like learned like some new ways to do things and has improved upon himself. So I think that's another
Or are you
problem.
just saying that because it's from your state?
I mean, you can say that, but I will also say that Adelabu that is from my state is a terrible power minister. So I don't know. I'm just like trying to be objective. Adelabu is from Ibadan. That is way
I know,
like
I
me.
know.
So
I'm teasing.
exactly. So so I think not improving that happens a lot in Nigeria. Like it's the most brilliant minds that they get to a point to get successful and there's just a stop. They don't like align with new trends in their industry.
Is it a problem with that goes back to our education system, the academia? Obviously, you are a product of Nigerian university, so am I, and a lot of us. And you don't really see much come out of our institutions
Yeah.
in terms of being at the frontier of research.
Yeah.
Like you touched on an important point, like Cardoso, these guys, they are, apart from like maybe being stuck in the recent past, I feel like their worldview is so over financialized.
Yeah.
As someone that has also been in that world myself, maybe I have the benefit of both worlds, having been working in development for at least the latter part of my career, working in finance in the early parts of my career. And you've the default technocrat in Nigeria is somebody in finance.
Yeah.
Even some of these respectable publications like FT, like when you see them talk to experts about the economy, they go to the finance guys, right? When you see us celebrate reforms, they are reforms that are largely beneficial to the financial sector.
That's
right.
They are chasing backers for the wait for now. All of us must chop out of us.
You understand?
All of us, we must go.
So like these over financialized what, and I don't think that is a bad thing because for a long time, for the longest time, you can argue that probably since Babangida in the early to mid 90s, the financial sector has been the place with the richest pool of human capital.
Yeah.
Right?
Because of incentives.
Exactly. Because of the incentives, because a lot of investment came. I remember talking about how it got started with his partner that recently died and how much experience and learning and like we say like Ken, going back to Ken Arrow's paper in 64, learning by doing, how much experience they got from foreign investment by Citibank, JP Morgan coming to Nigeria, and how much they upgraded themselves going through that process. And these were the guys that are now captains of the industry today that controls vast amount of resources, that are basically financing the country, and you could say that we did not develop other sectors enough, that could also have benefited from such spillovers as well, the industrial sector, the manufacturing, and other forms of services, and even our financial sector, it's limited in its level of complexity, like you can tell the difference in complexity from the kind of deals an Indian banker is working on right now and that which a Nigerian banker is working on.
Definitely.
So is it because our education system, which was my original question, has become so stunted, so rigid, and kind of trapped in this fossilized state of non-productivity, such that academics are not relevant in policy debates?
Yeah, when I was in uni, so I went to a federal government uni in Nigeria, and
Which one?
OAU.
Okay.
So what
I know you
what
when I see
happens?
you.
What happens is, so you apply for a big course like computer engineering, electrical engineering, law, or something, and you are thrown to English or Yoruba or something. And do you know what people used to say when they find themselves with courses they don't want? Should they share back? Like, so, and it starts from there. I mean, the incentives that the financial sector give people, so they attract the best talents, even if you're an engineer. And this is something that is happening even in the US now. Like you see, like brilliant Chinese or Indian engineers that are working in the financial sector.
Yeah,
Because,
quant funds and all
yeah,
this.
they give the best returns. So that happens. And I saw a tweet yesterday. They were talking about GT's profit, like $1 trillion. And someone
Yeah.
said, if this is not happening in manufacturing, does it really matter? And I agree with them. I think the issue we have is academia is really bad, and immediately that's another place that there is misallocation of resources. So we spend a lot of money subsidizing education for people that will eventually travel abroad
Mm.
and just continue their life. So there is no return to the society for the amount of money we spend on education. People say we don't spend enough, but even the one we spend, we don't get the impact.
Mm.
I've not done the research yet, but this is just anecdotal evidence. I don't think the amount of money we get in like funds from people that live abroad offsets the fact that we are losing like our best brains abroad every time.
Mm.
So if you study chemical engineering in Nigeria, you don't get a job in an IOC, and all the IOCs are leaving now. What's left for you? You have to work in finance.
Mm.
And you have to find, you might be a bank teller even. Like, it's that bad. You don't even need to like get to managerial exec level. And this is somebody that studied chemical engineering. So at once you're going to apply to Canada and will look at chemical engineer, come over. So meanwhile, you are just back there in your teller work. So we don't even have the best fit for like the courses, the people that will churn out. You see graduates every year, biochemistry, this and that. How many labs do we have? How many? Where are the places that we can work? Where is the mobility? Where are the industries that we can work? So it just concentrates everybody into either politics or finance, and that's why you now like draw out the best people, like the people that have gotten so greedy that they just want to get everything back. I think it's a big problem. I think my ideas on like arresting brain drain are too controversial for me to say, but I think it's the brain drain is definitely a big problem. The fact that we're not able to also use the talent that we have, if they are not living well, it's another big problem. So there's like no end in sight into that at all that I can see.
I don't know. I don't believe in the brain drain because it's like that famous William Bamor paper on entrepreneurship. If talent will always find the best role.
Of course.
So unless people say it's a chicken and egg, I say it's just an egg. If we change the incentives. Like you've mentioned that word multiple times.
And because life is all about incentives.
Yeah, incentives change the world, change the incentives, change the world. Like if you change the incentives such that talent is rewarded in Nigeria, there will be no brain drain.
So I think you're right, but I also think like if the government is heavily involved in paying for education, it's because they want an educated populace.
Yeah.
So if you pay for someone's education and you lose them to somebody else on the cheap, you are losing anyway.
So but then you dare ask yourself, like that reveals the stupidity of government, if you ask me.
Of course.
Because it's like you wanting to go to an Owambe party, you sew your cloth, your cap and everything. You put on your top, your cap, your watch, but you fail to put on your trousers, and you walked and you say, "Oh, see, people are staring at me." That's the way I see how we do things. We go through these steps, but the critical things that are necessary to bring it home, like to really, really get that reward, which is the economy itself, which is where people will get the experience, where they will upgrade their human capital, where they will earn more. We constantly mess with the economy in such a distorted way that nobody is willing to hang around. And then we complain that we are spending. So the question then is, why are you spending all that money on education if you are always constantly interfering in the economy in the worst possible ways? It's like Buhari investing in all this infrastructure and running macro policies that is never ever going to bring investments. How will the infrastructures pay for themselves? Because infrastructure pay from investment. You see a road, then you are willing to invest in the logistics business that uses that road, and the government earns that from taxes it collects from your booming business. That's how infrastructure investment pay for itself. Yeah. But you build bridges, you build road, build railway tracks, but you distort and destroy the economy such that
where is anything going to come from?
What you're trying to use, because the endpoint for an education policy is the workforce, is the labor market.
Yeah.
And the labor market is the way it is. Then our unemployment rate, 97% of our workforce, 97% of our workforce works in the informal sector. What do we have?
Nothing. That means they are practically unemployed. Too many entrepreneurs because and people, quote the statistics like it's something great.
Yeah.
There are no industries. I think Dangote is the highest employer of labor. And there are no industries employing like people in like millions or something anymore. So I think it's terrible. Youth unemployment especially.
Yeah.
There's like
especially with such a young population.
Yeah, with such a young population doing nothing, and so we are even missing out on the global outsourcing craze. We've missed out on that. I was listening to a podcast on Philippines the other day. So they have these call centers, a lot of them. I think like they have like the biggest ones in the world. So I was thinking it was India, but according to the podcast, the Bloomberg podcast, so AI is revolutionizing that in the sense that before the accent of the women that were picking the calls was like, that this person is Filipino. But now AI just automatically translates it into
English,
into like a proper English accent. So the person will be talking in their normal Filipino accent, translating. And in my mind, I'm like, that means these jobs can move to Nigeria because the Philippines is the first place because of the type of accent and this thing that people are used to. That means these jobs can move to Nigeria, but without power policies,
without broadband access.
But the problem is when it moves to Nigeria, don't forget that AI keeps learning, right? That means in 5 or 10 years, AI itself will just be making the calls.
Yeah.
So you are going to have like 100 million people doing nothing because you don't even need to employ them. So now the global outsourcing, like, oh, you're supposed to have people like in a massive sweatshop or something making iPhones or garments or whatnot. Years when that is like totally automated, we totally missed out and we just keep giving birth to people. So I think the disruption that is coming is even worse than what we are seeing now. When a shitload of people don't have jobs, we can't afford any UBI program in Nigeria. So can't wait to see how we get ourselves out of that mess.
So that brings me to the controversial opinion I mentioned earlier. You said on Twitter, that was very interesting Twitter page, that politicians in Nigeria are strongly selected.
Yeah. And people like were knocking.
Yeah, a lot of people went berserk on what do you mean, because the accepted wisdom, conventional opinion is that we are governed by what the worst of us.
Yeah, but look around you. Who are people that are becoming senators? Who are people that are becoming members of House of Representatives? Who are people that are becoming local government chairmen? Go down to local governments. Who are people that are able to contest? They are the best among them. So people don't understand the talent program that we have.
Okay.
It's terrible. So someone starts working in a bank, gets enough money, earns promotion, or was in the military, retires, joins the Senate. Look at the Senate, look at the composition, ex-governors, how did they become governor? They were either like the social climbers that eventually become governor, like a very minute population. Look at my state. Ladoja was like a billionaire since I was born.
Yeah.
He was governor. I think only Lamadeshina was a poor teacher.
Yeah,
he went through the struggle of June 12 this, Nadeko that all of them were doing that then. So the strongly selected teacher, strongly selected, billionaire, strongly selected, Akala, police officer that came strongly selected.
So
big engineer, strongly selected.
So okay.
Like,
okay, fine.
These are the best people that you can find in the society. It's unfortunate.
So how come they are so fucked?
So when I said it, people think what I'm saying is that these guys are great. But I'm saying they are great relative to the society. So people think I was trying to say that. So they were talking about like, I think the conversation came from like there's this YouTuber lady and people were like, oh, they didn't know what that was a senator. And I said, like, why are you shouting about it? It's like the fact that the dad is a senator means he was successful in something before going to the Senate. Like they are very much strongly selected. Like, sorry to say this, even if they were like drug dealers or Yahoo people, they were the best of those people. I mean, it's unfortunate, but they are strongly selected in society. It's only the people that are able to be successful in whatever they were doing that get into office. It's not just they just pick random people from the streets. So in relative to the society, relative to the type of people that we churn out, these are the best type of people that we're able to get.
That's crazy.
I mean, when you look at it in that way, it's sad because you're like, so we can't get out of this problem. I think
because what came to my mind when I saw that is that even if we like restrict the criteria to say maybe professionals,
yeah,
I know.
I
know of bankers, people with strong credentials who are in politics. But what it just tells me is that the ceiling in Nigeria is pretty low.
This set of governors that we have now, Zamfara governor was ED in a bank, Alex Otti is running a bank, my governor is an engineer, Fubara that looked and picked was like Auditor General or something of the state. Ogun State, Dapo Abiodun had aid in petroleum for years and he had been like a businessman. Somebody was like always in the Lagos establishment. So like look everywhere and look at the type of people that are governing them. They are the best people from that state. There's no doubt about it. When you look at the list of people that want to contest, they are the best people from that state. Relative to that state. I'm not saying relative to the US or relative to the world or anything. They are strongly selected for like the Nigerian situation that we find ourselves.
So, I think where I would like to close this out is the question of political participation. Um, in the previous episode, one thing that came up was how weakly institutionalized political parties are. In fact, my guest, that was an interesting episode. My guest is of the opinion that political parties are nothing more than special purpose vehicles for winning elections. I agree with that. Um, but the issue of political participation is always comes up because, like you and I have talked about this even privately, the only way we can get out of the quagmire in Nigeria is in the underdevelopment, the poverty, the rottenness of the society generally. Um, as much as it pains me to admit it, it's through politics.
Mm-hmm. That's why it's funny when people say, "Oh, I don't get myself involved." Well, politics will get itself involved with you. That's why
Exactly.
you not be on your own. Politics will come and get itself involved.
Exactly. So which then brings me to the issue of political participation for especially young people. We have a very young population who, yeah, they may have opinions on social media or whatever that one may agree or disagree with. But at the end of the day, I feel like what is missing is some kind of clear path for how to participate in the political process, um, to be able to have some level of influence, maybe not as an individual, but as a group or whatever. Because, for example, if you look at enfranchisement in more developed democracies, there are people who are aware that their votes matter.
Well, our votes matter, and
Yeah, I don't disagree, but I guess that it's just their awareness.
Yeah.
Right?
And even social media opinions. I've met top politicians that are like, "Oh, I saw your tweets or this thing," or like people that are concerned, like, this person that posted this or that, and the person is just going by their day, and the billionaire somewhere is worried, like,
So there was a viral video making the rounds maybe like 2 weeks ago of a construction guy, tackling Trudeau while he was on the campaign trail. And the guy was confident that I disagree with you, and come the election, we are going to vote you out. Like you've not been representing our interests, whatever those are, in any way, and we are going to vote you out. And you see, such awareness in so many democracies around where people feel confident enough to think that there are electoral consequences for politicians running things in a way that they disagree with, rightly or wrong, right? So, what is the path, in your opinion, as someone that is in this process, as someone that has been doing this for a while and at a very relatively young age, what is the path for political participation for young people in Nigeria? Is it activism? Is it civil society? Is it simply joining a political party? What is the pragmatic advice from the front lines?
So it's very important. And I tell my friends this, a lot of them don't listen, but the time that they listen, it's not too late. They need to pay for all the time that they listen. Young people need to be able to do the work, and it's a lot of work. And that's what politicians charge us for, because they know you won't do the work. You won't come for ward meetings. You won't sit down through ward meetings on a Sunday. You won't donate a new bench to the ward. Somebody is having a burial or birthday. You won't attend because you're in the same ward. You won't donate to the burial or birthday. You will not have the social skills to be able to work with low dregs of society. That's what they want is different from what you want. So, and this is the premium that politicians charge us, because they know that you will not do it. They know you have a lot of noise, you have a lot of followers on Twitter, or Facebook, or TikTok, or something. they probably try to pay a counter influencer to be fighting you. But they know that when it comes to the rigorous work on ground, for you to join the party, get your membership, attend work congresses, sit down, create like relationship with people in these places, live with them, share their joys, be sad when they are sad. They know you are not able to have social skills to do that. So these people are in charge of, for lack of a better word, thousands and millions of people. They have a network of getting money, favors, or anything to them. And young people just want to stay away and come out on election day and vote. If they come out at all, because if you come out and say appreciate it, then not everybody can have the time to go through the political process. But I think it's very important for young people to come in and join the political process because the more, so people don't understand that this thing is not so hard. It's about trying to impress people. It's about trying to get people to your side. And if you are a lot of people on that side, the politician will show up. That's why when people wanted to protest, you could see them running up and down because it's a game of more numbers. It's more people. It's not that hard. So when you have people of like mind that you are in like an action group, because a political party is like an action group, and you guys are able to do this. So if you join a party, you might not find people of like minds. You can be in a faction of that party. I mean, was Bernie Sanders is in the Democratic Party, but he has a faction within the party that their father left, and you can go and say, "Oh, I'm an independent senator," but he's still within like the Democratic coalition. So we need to be able to say, I might not agree with the larger points of these people. I might not be a PDP person, but I still have like my own young technocrat association within the PDP. And when the PDP comes to a conclusion or something, this is how we criticize them as a member. This is how we pay our dues. So people need to be able to say, I'm a member, I've paid my dues, I've been here, I've contributed to this, and this is my demand. Anybody can say it in a political party. People will listen to you because you are literally among them. So when you see people that have done all that and they get to office or something, they start charging premium on people because they know you can't do this. So they start taking more from the coffers than they deserve. And it's because they feel like, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to go back to your village and start running and do anything? Like even people that live in metropolitan areas cannot organize within metropolitan areas, like your fellow educated people. So what are you talking about? You can't even sit down on a Sunday and say, okay, you know what, this is like an educated area. I don't have to do, I don't have to shout and behave like a thug or something.
Yeah.
Let me organize within this area. They can't do that. So that's the premium that we get to pay to politicians that are able to do. Politics is all about organization. If you are able to organize within work, within your family, within church, then politics is for you. You don't have to do it as like something you do for a living. You don't have to, like, I always tell people, like, do something else because it doesn't even make sense for that to be like your source of livelihood. Be in business, be in anything you want to do. Make sure your business is thriving because you can be in your position for 20 years. If you have something you're doing, you don't have to, like, I remember there was a time when the opposition just for 8 years, but I had my business also. Like, I didn't really care. The governor came, when not largely agreed, and I still don't care. And I'm still living in the same, we did the same political party, we don't like, we don't, so you need to have something else you're doing. But the involvement itself, for you to have your voice, it's very, very important. And I don't want people to be deterred that, oh, the last election was rigged. The last election, so many big elephants fell. There was a speaker in Yobe that was going for like a 6th term, like was beaten blue and backward by an empire teacher. So you can't tell somebody like that elections don't count, or people that were tired of the person. So I think because of the way the opposition splits their votes, people don't see the fact that when you combine those votes, they beat APC and Tinubu, blue, black. So the participation is the most important thing now. It's like we need to literally seize our future. And we can't do it with just protests or complaining on social media. You need to like get your PVC, organize around your area, pick a candidate, pick a local candidate. So another thing is, so it's sad when you see that politicians feel they need to give back to the lower income people in society more, and that's because those ones organize better. They organize better and they demand. They demand and they keep demanding. Upwardly mobile or middle class people or lower middle class people, they don't demand. They just go in vote. They don't even know the person that they are voting for. So you need to create like pressure groups, meet the candidates, make your demands. The people that are looking down on, they make demands from politicians. Their demands might not be what you agree with. Though. They might say, give us rice, give us beans, give us this. They might not be, but you can make your own demands at your own level of sophistication from the politician. And if politicians say, oh, these people actually have the numbers, they are going to listen to nobody. Like, politicians are the most humble people on earth, but they literally need votes. You are going to see how humble people and his people will be when we get to 2026 or something. They will literally be begging and kissing people's feet everywhere because they are going to need the votes, and these are your votes. You are the one in charge of it. So young people need to show more grit. We can't be faced that, oh, they rigged the last one, I just want to jump and I don't even care about what's happening in the country. Like, well, you can't carry your entire family out even if you jump. So the country itself needs to be better.
Yeah, my final question would be like on that note. I know you may not agree or like the man himself, but one of the things that Peter Obi was sort of yammering on about during the last campaign was the need for a new kind of politics. I know for a fact it might be because of globalization, the fact that all of us can basically access the same quality of information now globally. Young people are a bit, or maybe some of us that grew up in the Obasanjo second term years, that things felt like maybe it's on the way up. I've been uncomfortable with patrimonial politics, the patronage kind of politics that some people, politicians particularly, are a lot more at home with, of course, because of their own incentives, are more comfortable with. So, where a lot of money changes, there's a lot of quid pro quo, there's a lot of, like you said, all politics are local. There's maybe the quality of ideas in your neighborhood might not be up to par with your social media friends, for example. So my point to you is that, do you think that out of this mess we can fashion out a new kind of politics in Nigeria?
First of all, I'm going to say I don't dislike the man. So we worked together in 2019. I don't dislike the man. But I think we are not going to get anywhere if we deceive people. Yeah. If we do something in-house and then say something else outside. I think it's dishonest. We need a new type of politics, I agree. He was able to achieve a retail type of politics to an extent, but I'm sure he knows that it's not going to put him in office. I'm sure he knows the type of patriotic type of politics that not only he did to be governor, but the one he used to choose his successor. I'm sure he knows like the local kings he started buying cars for. I'm sure he knows how they tailored state contracts in certain ways to reward some people. There is an entire CIJ paper on this. So it's not like he doesn't know how the old type of politics works. He didn't become governor and VP nominee, trading delegates to be VP nominee. because of new type of politics.
Mm.
And new type of politics can get you 6 million votes and 13% vote, 25% in 14 states, but it won't get you 10 million votes and 25% in 24 states.
Mm.
So we need to be realistic, and we don't need to be we. So the fact that we want to look like we are the good ones should not make our opponents be the victors, because they are the ones that are pragmatic.
Mm.
So sanctimony should not be the goal.
Mm.
Victory should be. I don't. So we are going to win the moral fight, but we are going to buy fuel for 1,500.
Oh yeah.
So I don't, and I'm not here to win the moral fight. I'm not here to be sanctimonious. I think it's. I also agree that we need a new type of politics, but you need to get in office. Like I said before, you need to get in office. If you are not in office, you are only going to be the great president that never was, and you are going to have statues and all. But somebody else will have their name on the wall. So I don't want. The lesson I want young people to learn from the last one is that we need victory. We need to win. We need to get the best people in office, so that we don't have a terrible country, so that we don't feel like, oh, if you had listened to me, if you had voted for my person, things would have been better. No, we should be the ones winning and demanding from our candidate that this is what we want. So I agree with him that we need a new type of politics. I like the fact that he pushed the envelope a bit on the new type of politics he wants to talk about, but I'm sure he knows what the end game is. And the end game is not going to win with that type of politics. The end game is not going to win with Aisha Yesufu coming on Twitter to tweet, oh, party agents, please send me a DM. Like, how are you going to run the country like that? So I would love for everybody to work together in 2027. I would really appreciate it, both the pragmatic side, the retail side, the populist side. Everybody should come together to get APC out of office. That's like my ultimate goal. But if we want to, if people feel like sanctimony is what they want, that's also fine by me. We're going to buy for at 2,000 later though, but at least we will be morally upright. And we are going to sleep well at night, like, okay, we're the good ones. But this is no country for good men, so exactly. So we just like we need to decide which one we want. There is a structure that is decades old, that is everywhere, like the PDP, that you can use to get votes out. And there's another one that you can make like a cult of personality that, oh, we can have this person, and then maybe you have sprinkles of ethno-religious bias and this thing. That's fine. But where is it going to get? Which one will get you to Asoro? People just have to decide for themselves.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure, yeah.
I mean, I hope you've been honest.
Well, very as brutally honest as possible. I hope I didn't get myself, because when I do these things, I just hear calls like, can go to go somewhere. So yeah. So, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.